What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Stochastic channel. And today we're talking college football DFS ahead of week 9, the Tuesday slate. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you today by Prize Picks. They have a first match deposit bonus up to $100 when you sign up and make a deposit. They're also going to give you 1 free month of Odd Shopper. We have all kinds of sports betting tools on Odd Shopper. They help you with sides, totals, as well as player props, which can help you exploit some of the Prize Picks markets. They have sports, NFL, NBA, NHL, college football, all the way down to a ton of niche sports. So make sure to check them out. Link in the video description below. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 to play. All right. We dive into the 2-game slate, a pretty good one for a Tuesday slate. And we kick things off with New Mexico State taking on Louisiana Tech. New Mexico State is the 2.5-point road underdog, 52 total. A little bit lower than the total in the latter game, but still usable. New Mexico State is 126th in pace. They have a 46% pass rate. Louisiana Tech, 70th in pace, a 55% pass rate. They have air raid tendencies. Right away, there's a top 3 quarterback-wise on this slate, and Diego Pavia is part of it. He's at 9,300. He's the most expensive quarterback, and he relies on efficiency. Extremely mobile, 525 rushing yards this year, very live for a 100-yard bonus any given week. Through the air, only 23.5 attempts, but he still averages 223 yards. Very efficient passer. It's not the easiest matchup against Louisiana Tech, who is imbalanced on defense. They have a very good secondary, but they're weak against the run. Obviously, Pavia's ability to rush helps exploit that too. I'm tentatively ranking him 3rd among the elite signal callers, but I don't feel great about that, and I reserve the right to change it. Ultimately, you're playing multiple lineups. I think you should be spread pretty evenly across Pavia, Caden Salter, and Austin Reed. The backfield's a little more interesting for New Mexico State. It's tough to target, not only because they use 3 guys, but they also use Pavia a lot, so it's essentially a 4-way committee. But they recently gave Monty Watkins more work, which makes sense to me. He had the awesome week 7 on just 3 carries. And then last week, they gave him a few more opportunities. He had 10 carries, 1 target. He outtouched Star Thomas 11-8. This makes a ton of sense to me. He only has 44 touches all year, but he's outgained Star Thomas by over 100 yards. It's actually a little unfortunate it's taken the coaching staff this long to realize Monty Watkins is just a more efficient player than Star Thomas on pretty good opportunity. But it's happening. So 4,900s, Monty Watkins is who I would play for this team if you're playing one of the backs for New Mexico State. The receiving game is by far the worst to target on this slate for a few reasons. First of all, they don't throw the ball a lot. So nobody on the team averages more than 4 targets a game. The leader, Jonathan Brady, averages 3.9 and just 44 yards. But that's the other problem. They're not full-time players. Brady has a route rate of 63%. Cordell David, he's at 71%. Cordell David only has 68 receiving yards all year. So their top 3, Jonathan Brady, Trent Hudson, Cordell David, it's very hard to play any of them because their routes ebb and flow, as do their targets. And then they started using Eli Stowers as a receiver. He has 13 targets combined over the last 2 games. He's extremely hard to play because he's technically a quarterback on DraftKings, and his price tag's $8,200. So, I mean, now that they're rotating Stowers onto the field more at receiver, this is a complete mess. My approach is going to be just to pay all the way down for David in some spots, save the salary, not as much opportunity cost with a punt play. But yeah, I won't be heavily exposed to New Mexico State pass catchers. I'm fine playing Pavia alone. Louisiana Tech. Jack Turner got benched last week, and Hank Bachmeier made his triumphant return. They have similar passing efficiency metrics. The big difference between them passing is Bachmeier doesn't have as many turnovers, but Turner does run a little more. So it's kind of ebbs and flows. I'm guessing Bachmeier starts, and I'm guessing he plays the whole game as long as there's not some egregious mistakes. Louisiana Tech has shown that they will hook a guy pretty quickly if he's not playing well. So you still have risk of maybe Turner coming in and playing some, but right now my read on this is that Bachmeier should start and play the whole game as long as he can avoid some negative plays. This is why this quarterback situation is ranked 4th. I'll still play some Bachmeier, but just watch. Like, You could get news that Turner starts. I don't know how the situation plays out, but we'll find out more when game time approaches. Biggest late news situation is Louisiana Tech. And part of that is Tyree Shelton's questionable for this game. A lot of people tilting last week, myself included, Tyree Shelton's 10-carry game. He left early with an injury, and Jarvis Thornton came out and carried 6 times himself. Right away, Shelton would be one of the better running back plays on the slate if we get news that he's in. New Mexico State's defense doesn't scare you. He has an awesome pass game role. He had 4 targets in their last game prior to exiting. But we just don't have that news, and it's probably not going to come before kickoff. If he's out, Jarvis Thornton is probably the best running back play on the slate. Jacob Fields will play a little bit, but it should be mostly Jarvis Thornton. They have a ton of injuries like Keldrick Moody, Keith Willis. They haven't played recently. Marquise Crosby, last year's leader, has only carried the ball once in the last 3 games. He's still not fully healthy. So Jarvis Thornton should have a good role. He had 9 touches after Shelton got hurt last week, 6 carries, 3 targets, so he'll play on pass downs. No problem there. Receiving game, I think you won't want to Smoke Harris and Cyrus Allen. 14 targets for Smoke Harris last week, 10 targets for Allen. You haven't seen Smoke below 13 targets in the last 2 games. He's been in at least 13 targets in 3 of the last 4. Just an awesome floor with Smoke Harris. He's worth paying for. If you can't get there, though, I think Cyrus Allen isn't far behind. He's averaging 7.3 targets per game over the last 4, 2 of those in double digits. The wide receiver 3 is really tricky. True Edwards did not play in their last game. So then we saw Kyle Maxwell have a pretty good route share and 7 targets. He's at 3,400. Haven't seen anything on True Edwards. Maxwell had been hurt earlier this year, so I kind of think he's the preferred wide receiver 3 anyway. I think you can play him, and I'm going to. No real issues. His route share was 93% last game. And then from there, we need to talk about the tight end wide receiver 4 situation. I think with Bachmeier, they use more wide receiver 4. We actually saw Marley and Jackson with a 45% route share, and that's with Smoke Harris, Cyrus Allen, and Kyle Maxwell being nearly every snap player. So you can tell they're running 4 wide a lot. But Nate Jones, their tight end, was out of the game. Ryan Rivera, 47% route share. They essentially went 50-50 between using a tight end and a 4th wide receiver. I think if Nate Jones returns, maybe this is closer to like 25% for wide receiver, 75% tight end, but I don't feel good about that. So ultimately, comfortable with Maxwell, Allen, Harris. You're looking for a really deep dart. Marley and Jackson, Ryan Rivera, Nate Jones if active. Second game, Liberty takes on, before we go, can't forget to do the second ad read. It's not really a read. What I'm just going to say is we have a package available for College Football DFS that includes this sheet you're looking at right now, which I love using. Helps contextualize the slate, look at data, changes in opportunity, anything like that. And if you don't want to squint, pause the video and stuff to see the data analysis. We have it available in our College Football DFS package. In that, you'll also get player projections, ownership projections, slate analysis, access to our Discord, which I hang out in before lock every single night, provide injury updates, answer any of your questions personally. So yeah, check that out. It is all the work I put in one spot. If you've already done that, thank you. I appreciate it. And the link is below. All right. Liberty, Western Kentucky, 5-point spread in favor of Liberty. They've taken some money, 61.5 total. So the better game environment to look at. Liberty is 113th in pace. They are a run-based team, 32% pass rate. It's the Jamie Chadwell offense. We've seen it with Grayson McCall and Coastal Carolina for years. He's translated it seamlessly to Liberty. Western Kentucky's 33rd in pace with a 64% pass rate. They basically just throw the ball underneath. We'll talk about them in a second. So Liberty, Caden Salter, elite mobility, 497 yards on the ground. He's averaging 213 through the air on just 22 attempts. Get the edge. I give the edge to Salter over Pavia because better game environment, similar opportunity, cheaper price. Not by much, but it makes a difference. So Salter, he's my number 1 quarterback on the slate. I'll be playing a ton of him. This team runs the ball so much that Quinton Cooley and Billy Lucas honestly are in play on given slates. Quinton Cooley has had just a monstrous opportunity share over the last 2 games. 28 carries, 24 carries. Cooley's the best running back play on the board. Billy Lucas had been their primary change of pace, but recently they've gotten James Jointer and Aaron Bedgood involved a little more. So I don't think Billy Lucas is quite the same play he was I think you can mix and match these three. Bedgood in particular is interesting because he plays wide receiver. At least the position designation is that on DraftKings. So he's worth mentioning. In the pass game, they considerably narrowed their opportunity in the last couple games, which surprised me. But here's what they did. CJ Daniels, last game, 100% of the routes. The game prior, 96%. CJ Daniels is an every snap player. Then they took Noah Frith. He'd been injured, comes back, first game, 58%. Last game, 96% of the routes for Noah Frith. Now, he's only been targeted a couple times this year, 2 targets in their last game, but man, he's on the field every single play. I think you can use Noah Frith. The only thing I'll mention with this, Elijah Smoot played 1 snap. We do not get good reporting on Liberty. I do not know if this is injury related, performance related, or what, but Elijah Smoot played 1 snap, and that certainly contributed to the boost in Noah Frith snaps. Anyway, the wide receiver 3 looks like Treyon Sibley. I know he's been targeted more than Frith, but the route rate's at 62%. That really hasn't changed since week 2. So he's been consistent. It was Frith that got the big boost in routes following the benching, absence of Smoot. I don't know what it is. Other players to mention here, tight end Bentley Hanshaw. He's at about 60% of the routes, give or take, on any given night. I think he's fine target-wise if you're looking for a cheaper play. But then again, Aaron Bedgood, route rate solid for a receiver running back hybrid. He was at 50% last week, really cheap. Gets targets and carries. So honestly, the better floor between Bedgood and Frith is still probably Bedgood, but I think you can look at some of the cheap guys here for this team as well. Western Kentucky, they're running the horizontal raid. Their OC is taking tons of heat for ruining Austin Reed's season and costing them games. The big thing with Western Kentucky to me is they lost their 2 best defenders. So now Upton Stout, Jaquez Evans are both out of this game. Liberty should have no problem moving the ball. Austin Reed, 89 rush yards, but he's only averaging 273 through the air on 42 attempts. He's still live for a 300-yard bonus. I rank him second among quarterbacks, slightly ahead of Pavia just because of that volume and the better game environment, but it's very close, and I wouldn't fault you for playing Pavia either. The backfield for Western Kentucky is a 4-way committee. They've sort of condensed opportunity to Marquise Stepp and Elijah Young. Last game, Stepp 7 carries, Elijah Young 10. But LT Sanders and Davion Irving Poindexter play a little bit too. DEP 3 carries, LT Sanders 2. I think LT Sanders is by far the worst play. He doesn't run any routes, whereas DEP, Elijah Young, and Marquise Stepp all do. None of them are preferred plays. I'm just going to try to get Louisiana Tech running back and Quinton Cooley in my lineup. Maybe Monty Watkins. But for tournaments, we at least need to consider these guys because they score points. Touchdowns, that is. And they don't get a lot of carries. Receiving game, Malachi Corley is still about $2,500 too cheap. He hasn't seen fewer than 12 targets in any of the last 4 games. He's averaging 97 yards per game. 11.7 targets per game on the year. Play Malachi Corley and just make the rest work. This is the most important thing for you to do tonight. Outside of that, it's pretty nasty rotation for Western Kentucky. They use 5 receivers. So you'll see these routes ebb and flow. But recently, we've seen opportunity go towards Jimmy Holiday and Musa Berry. I don't think that changes in this game. Musa Berry, last 2 games, 75% of routes, 60% of routes. Jimmy Holiday, 86% of routes, 56% of routes. Those were second and third highest on the team each of the last 2 games. After that, Easton Messer, 25%, 38%. Craig Burt, 36%, wasn't targeted the week prior. Dalvin Smith, 36%, 40%. Katie Hutchinson, 14%, 32%. Even tight end River Helms, his route rate went from 66 down to 30% last week. A lot of part-time players here. I think if you're just ranking the Western Kentucky pass catchers based on price, volume, it's Corley 1 by a mile. 2 for me is going to be Jimmy Holiday. He has 13 targets combined over the last 3 games. Musa Berry would be the next player. He's actually had better opportunities, 16 targets over the last 3 games. Then I go Dalvin Smith 4. 5 is Easton Messer. 6 is Craig Burt. And then I guess after that, you can look at the tight end River Helms. But that'll do it for us today. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If I missed something, anything, let me know. If you have a question, reach out on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Otherwise, we'll be back every day this week breaking down all the slates. Until next time, good luck, everyone. We'll see you later.